Hello! Winter is here and the boat is tucked away until spring. There are still a few little jobs to do, but the boat is mostly finished. Due to the insurance complications, we didn't get to use the boat quite as much as we had hoped, but we still managed to get out and spend 4 nights on it and put 18 hours on the engine. That was enough use to give us a pretty good idea of how successful the boat build was. Obviously, the true test will be how it stands up to years of use, not just a few days. That said, what are our first impressions? The good and the bad. Performance? I would say we're thrilled. The boat performs at least as well as I had hoped. When I was planning the build, I was hoping that a V6 Sterndrive would give it a top speed of about 30 miles an hour with a cruising speed of about 20 miles an hour. I didn't want the extra expense of feeding a V8, so I was willing to accept whatever the V6 would do, even if it wasn't quite up to my expectations. My first indication that I might have realistic expectations was when Volvo Penta gave me the computer-generated propeller recommendations for the boat. Their software said the boat should have a top speed of 33.9 miles per hour. That was more than I was expecting, and obviously would be affected by whether the boat actually weighed more or less than what I told them. I've only had it wide open once, but it hit 34 miles per hour. Couldn't hit it much closer than that. My desired cruise speed of 20 miles an hour happens at 3,550 RPMs. That speed seems to be a happy spot for the boat. It has it sitting on top of the water high enough that the bow thruster tunnel is above the waterline. How about fuel efficiency? Based on boats I've owned in the past, I was hoping this one would get around 3 miles per gallon. Being an elderly Canadian, I'm talking imperial gallons, not US gallons. That'd be about 2.5 miles per gallon with US gallons. Using the liter per hour meter from the engine management system, I calculated the fuel efficiency at a few different speeds and RPMs. At 20 miles an hour, the boat gets 3.03 miles per gallon. Again, we couldn't have hit it much closer than that. And as it turns out, the boat actually gets a little bit better mileage at a few other speeds. At the risk of putting you all to sleep, I'll run through a few different figures. Speeding up to 22.5 miles per hour ends up with 3.15 miles per gallon. And if I'm in a little more of a rush, we can run at 24 miles an hour and still get the same miles per gallon as we got at 20 miles an hour. Not terribly surprising, slowing down to off-plane speeds saves us even more fuel. Running at 8 miles an hour at 1900 RPMs gives just over 4 miles per gallon. And if you slow it down a little more to somewhere in the 6 to 7 mile per hour speed, that gives 5 miles per gallon. In US gallons, that calculates out to over 4 miles per gallon. Definitely better economy than I was expecting. Can't complain about that. I truly believe the technology of direct injection, variable valve timing, and all the other refinements of the engine I chose play a big part in what I believe to be impressive fuel mileage. My understanding is that the Duo-Prop also contributes to better speed and economy. Another benefit I'm seeing from the Duo-Prop is in the past I've had boats that running at off-plane speeds, the boat tended to wander back and forth even though you weren't moving the steering wheel, and that was caused by the prop wash. If you look behind the boat, you can see the prop wash was kind of weaving back and forth a bit. But the Duo-Prop straightens out the prop wash and the boat stays pointed exactly where you aim it. Another thing I'm pleased with is the stability of the boat. Keeping the center of gravity as low as possible helps keep the boat from being too rocky when you get hit with waves or just people moving from side to side or whatever. And first off, having a hull style instead of a pontoon boat, that automatically lowers the center of gravity. Our floor level inside the boat is just maybe an inch below the water line. And then below that, we have the water tank and holding tank. So they're, definitely fully below the water line. And also the engine and outdrive are, the majority of that fairly heavy weight, close to 1,000 pounds, is below the water line. So yeah, the boat is as good as you could ask for when people move from side to side or when waves hit you sideways, for being stable and not feeling tippy and rocky. So I'm really happy about that. What am I not happy about in the performance department? Over the years, I've driven and docked a lot of different boats. And even though some took a little getting used to, they didn't take long. I'm having more trouble getting comfortable docking this boat than any other boat I've ever driven. The biggest issue I'm having is with the electronic throttle. There's about a half-second delay between when you move the lever and when the engine reacts. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's messing me up. Everything I've read says you get used to the lag. When everything is calm and collected, I am used to it and I allow for it. The trouble happens when things don't go as planned and I revert back to instinct, and then it can get bad in a hurry. I've made a couple adjustments to the setup on the system and that has helped. And the other thing is I've learned that it has a docking mode, and in docking mode the throttle is reduced by 50%, so any movements of the lever don't have as big an effect. The other docking issue I've had is how easily the front end moves around with even the slightest breeze. It's not a big surprise, houseboats are known for that, but this boat seems even more prone to moving around than most. Lisa will tell you I've been known to chirp people that spend a lot of time on their bow thruster when they're docking. I always say just drive the boat and stop using the bow thruster so much. Well, on this boat it turns out the bow thruster is my friend and I've had to use it more than I thought I would. Not sure just why it is like that, but that's what I have learned. Keep the steering wheel aimed where you had it and use the bow thruster if the front end starts to move around on you. Okay, back to the positives. Lithium iron phosphate batteries. I am really impressed with our LifePro batteries. We spent 3 nights on the anchor and I didn't start the engine a single time as a test to see just how well the batteries would last. I also never hooked up the solar panels. We ran the windlass to put the anchor down. We had the chart plotters on continuously for the anchor alarm. We ran the anchor light all night, every night. We ran the inverter every morning so Lisa could make her smoothie in the blender. We ran the inverter every evening when we made our microwave popcorn. We had lights on, we charged our phones, charged my hearing aids, and after 3 days on the hook, the batteries were still at 70%. Considering they say you can run these down to 20% with no problem at all, we weren't even close to being low on battery. I do have to say that we have the propane fridge and stove, and that obviously is a nice savings for the battery compared to an electric fridge. But even so, I was really happy to see that we could stay really longer than we would ever want to stay. After 3 days not moving, we were kind of getting bored, but it was nice to have a good test and know that the batteries are going to outlast any time we're going to sit. So nice to see. How about livability? Again, this is only first impressions after limited use, but we're finding the boat quite comfortable to spend time on. Making it a few feet longer than most trailerable boats makes a big difference in the amount of living space and storage space. It's so nice when everything has its place. The galley has lots of space for meal prep and doing the dishes. The salon area is quite comfortable to spend time in. I really love my captain's chair, whether it's driving the boat or just sitting and relaxing. Another thing we're really loving is the rooftop deck and flybridge. It's my favorite place to drive the boat from. 360-degree view and the wind blowing through Lisa's hair, not so much mine. I haven't tried docking from the upper helm yet. It'd have great sight lines to see what's going on, but extra steps to get to a dock line, because when it's just the two of us, that means I have to take care of one end. Obviously it would be the back of the boat and it would mean getting down those stairs to the back in a hurry, and you don't want to have a tumble or anything. So one of these days we'll consider giving it a try. So far I've only docked from the lower helm. Any negatives on the livability? Well, on our last night on the boat we had a negative situation. Not so much a we negative as a Lisa negative. For the last of our 3 nights on the hook, the wind changed direction. That meant it had a little longer run to come in where we were anchored, and it was putting about half-foot waves slapping against the nose of the boat. To make matters worse, that was the first night we put all the window coverings on, so there was no way to look outside and see if we were dragging anchor. Our bed is at the front of the boat, so that meant the waves slapping on the bow were just that much louder at our bed. Lisa found this quite concerning, but I assured her she had nothing to worry about and promptly fell sound asleep. Lisa, not so much. When I woke up in the morning, I found that she had removed or opened about half of the window shades, and she was sitting at the dinette at the back of the boat. She said it was quieter back there, and I guess she slept a little bit. But the good news is, she says she'll come out on the boat and try again. How about trailerability? Well, we've only launched the boat and pulled it out once, and other than the problem of having the boat stuck to the trailer, which I don't expect to have happen again, everything has gone smoothly. When it came time to pull the boat out, Lisa and I decided we should do it alone and not get extra help. There was a bit of a cross breeze, but we went slow and used the bow thruster and got the boat on the trailer with our first attempt. As for traveling down the highway, the boat follows along just the way you'd hope. Very similar to towing our 36-foot travel trailer. The only difference compared to towing our travel trailer is the boat's taller, still under the 13'6" legal height, but high enough that you have to watch for low-hanging branches when you get off the main roads. That said, I wouldn't hesitate to tow it 1,000 miles to get to a place I wanted to go boating. Also, being as long as it is, launch ramp selection is important. Another concern I had is that my van is only rear-wheel drive, not four-wheel drive, but so far it hasn't had any trouble at all pulling the boat up a ramp. Overall, indications are that 4 years of planning and building this boat are going to be rewarded with many happy memories. We can't wait for spring to get here so we can start getting more familiar with it and traveling to further destinations. Stay tuned. If you were wondering what the rest of my shirt said, here you go.